afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm your GoLocal Live host, Rachel Nunes. Welcome to the show. We're really excited to kick off today with Rebecca Maxfield. She's the director of Much Ado About Nothing here in downtown Providence. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, it's good to be here. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So tell us a little bit about the show.
So this is our, I believe, fourth annual now summer outdoor production of Shakespeare or of a show by a playwright from the same period as Shakespeare. And actually, it's been kind of fun coming back to plays by Shakespeare. Over the past 2 years, we did more obscure plays from that period. So it's been fun to come back to something that really is a classic that everyone knows and loves. It's been a lot of fun. And we're also in a new location this year. We're at the Roger Williams National Memorial on North Main Street, which has been very cool and very accommodating.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the space. It seems like pretty much every city has its own Shakespeare in the Park type event. What's different about having it outdoors and more organic as opposed to in a traditional theater?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of fun that people can just wander by and see, oh, there's a play happening. I'd like to sit down and see what's happening. Why are these people yelling? But it's also a lot of fun for me to do. Well, I think this is true of the plays that we do inside at AS220 as well, but when Shakespeare's plays were originally being produced, they didn't have elaborate sets, they didn't have elaborate props. So it is kind of exciting to be, in a way, doing the shows the way they were meant to be done, where it's all very flexible, all very quick entrances and exits, establishing where we are through talking, and that's something that we get to do in the park. It's a lot of fun.
That's true. It's not something you really think about, but back in the Elizabethan era, there weren't all of the lights and high-tech equipment and all that. So it really is a nice way to kind of go back to the organic roots of Shakespeare. And so tell us a little bit about the production. It's Much Ado About Nothing. What's the main synopsis of the show?
All right.
For those of us who
don't know. So a regiment or a group of soldiers come back from the war. Claudio, who was one of the soldiers, just came out of the war highly decorated, very impressive, falls in love with Hero, one of the girls from back home. They'd met before and now they're falling in love. And in the week leading up to the wedding, they decide to set up their friends, Beatrice and Benedict, who are always sniping at each other, have some kind of conflict or some kind of failed relationship in their past. It's not super specified what it is, but they're always engaging in these battles of wit, and their friends decide it would be fun to set them up. Not necessarily that they would be good for each other, but it would be fun to set them up.
Sounds like a wild play.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
There's a lot of stuff that happens in it.
And so are these all local actors taking part?
Yeah, most are from the area. The actress playing Benedict is someone who is based alternately in New York and New Hampshire, but we've worked together before, and I'm really happy to have her back. Yeah, it's a lot of great actors who. The way that Rhode Island theater tends to work is people rarely work exclusively with one company, so it's people who you may have seen in other things, even if you haven't seen one of Hedrick Theater's shows before.
And so how do we take Shakespeare plays, which, when you read them in school, there's all this flowery language, and I don't know what it means. Then you watch the movie, and you're like, okay, I sort of know what it means. How can we make Shakespeare relatable, and how can we get people excited about Shakespeare, like literally centuries later?
I mean, so I do think it is easier to watch than to read. My direction is always very much about making the text clear, both in terms of telling people how to say it and in terms of making sure that the way people move around the stage makes it clear what they're talking about. And I also think that it's about people, and people are going to be people even centuries later. We also have modernized this particular production in some ways. Lots of people do Shakespeare in a way that reflects on such and such a current situation. The way we decided to do this production, and this was always going to be the way we were going to do this. It didn't result from casting that just happened to occur. This was the plan going in. As part of our season of Making a World, which is themed around escapism and fantasy, you'll see people do productions of this or of other Shakespeare comedies and say, oh, it's so escapist, it's a fun night out where you don't have to think about anything. But I go to a show like that and see, well, there's these two characters who repeatedly profess how uninterested they are in the opposite sex, and then they get paired up at the end. And as a gay person, that's not very escapist to me. Or there's a hero who, spoiler for the play, who is horribly humiliated and shamed and betrayed by Claudio, and she just takes him back at the end. And as a woman, this doesn't seem very escapist to me. So among the changes that we've made for the production, it's still a fairly traditional production in a lot of ways. But we did cast Benedict as a woman. So Beatrice's repeated statements that she's not interested in men are true, and Benedict's that he or that she in this production is not interested in women is just kind of oh Benedict, you're so in denial there. But also another change that we made, one of the other changes we made for our feminist agenda, is that Hero doesn't take Claudio back at the end. Again, spoiler for our production, but it's been interesting working on it also and seeing what requires work from the actors. So in this production, some of our actors were saying, oh, it's kind of weird that we have to get in with a general joy at the end, even though we've just personally suffered this kind of embarrassment of Hero rejecting Claudio in the end of this marriage that we tried to set up not working. And it's true, it is kind of a hurdle to get over for the actors, but on the other hand, normally in a normal production, and the actress playing Hero has to reconcile to herself how is she going to get back with Claudio after all this. So it's been really interesting discovering that kind of thing as we've worked on the production, in addition to knowing the stuff that we already knew about how we were going to do it. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
It can be very rambly.
That's a great approach, especially in past months with the Me Too movement.
Which was a big thing that we were thinking about in this production. Another change that we made, normally in a production of Much Ado, you'll see Don John, the guy who spurs on Claudio and his friend to slander Hero and who tricks them. You'll see him plotting, you'll see him and his henchmen plotting in scenes that are running concurrently with the scenes of all the merriment getting ready for the wedding. But in our production, we chose to put those scenes into a flashback after the wedding, so that at the time that Claudio at the wedding calls Hero out for supposedly being unfaithful, the audience is essentially in the same position as the characters are, where they have to decide who they're going to believe. Claudio, who says he totally saw her, or Hero says she totally didn't do it.
That's a really interesting way to kind of mirror society and to bring up those conversations of who do we believe in situations and who do we automatically lean towards of, oh, well, clearly he's right, clearly she's right. So
there's some great lines. Hero's father is saying to someone, because he initially believes them as well. He believes the other men. So he's saying, would the princes lie and Claudio lie? But he doesn't wonder, would my daughter lie?
Absolutely. Those are really great themes, and I think there's such a great way to explore things like that in a way that's not preachy.
Yeah, and it's always new. The nature of a theater production is that it's always happening right in front of you. It's always current. It's always of the moment.
Absolutely, and it's really cool that we can take, like I was saying, like sometimes Shakespeare can feel very removed. It's good to be able to take themes like that and stories like that and be able to bring them into the modern times. So not only are you learning this classic Shakespeare story that pretty much everyone knows, but you also can relate to it more.
I certainly think so.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about the production. If we want to come by, you mentioned it's at the Roger Williams Memorial. Sure.
As of now, we have 5 performances left. It's at Roger Williams National Memorial, which from the studio I think is that way. It's at 282 North Main Street, just between downtown and the East Side. It's Friday, this Friday and this Sunday at 8 o'clock, and next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 8 o'clock, all evening performances. Our first year of summer shows, we did matinees, but it's too hot out there.
Absolutely, we would not want to be out today.
So the Saturdays and Sundays, it's all in the evening. Check our Facebook page, Head Trick Theater, for weather announcements. We've been lucky so far. Didn't get rained out at all the first weekend, and it's looking like the weather's going to clear up for tomorrow as well. So cross fingers. But if you want to see it, you have 5 more chances, and hope to see you there. And join the giant dance party at the end of the show. I'm not even joking. There's a big dance party.
Who wouldn't want to join the giant dance party? And is it free to attend?
Well, you can donate to us online. We're not taking ticket fees in the park, but we do encourage you to donate to us online because it was not free to produce.
And so, Head Trick Theater, tell us a little bit more about the company. Do you do any other shows during the year?
Yeah, we're one of the resident companies of AS220 downtown, And our shtick, our thing is we do classics, usually classics that we try to produce in an innovative way with reference to modern issues like you were talking about. And sometimes that involves some kind of contemporary spin on something, but very often it's just about teasing out the contemporary implications or contemporary relevance in things that are there already. So for example, our previous season that we completed in March at AS220, we did God of Vengeance by Sholem Asch and Gabriel by George Sand, and we didn't attempt to set those in the modern day in a visual sense, but the issues that Gabriel raises of feminism and of trans issues, and of the limitations placed on women, and B, how to express an identity that's not the one you were assigned at birth, or not the one that or one that's neither male nor female. Those are issues that resonate today, even without setting it in the modern day. Or God of Vengeance raises a lot of issues of religious hypocrisy, of persecution of women. And it was very important to me in, given the current levels of anti-Semitism, to do a Jewish play as well. So it hasn't always, it's not an official part of our mission statement, but I am very interested in making sure that women and minorities are represented in the works we're doing, even though they're classic works. It's not,
That's true.
People who weren't straight white men didn't pop into existence 50 years ago.
That's true. Just because we're doing these older plays doesn't mean that we can't talk about minorities and racial issues and things like that. I think of it all as the Hamilton phenomenon of all of the founding fathers weren't, of course, minorities, but that doesn't mean you can't stage it in a way that is.
Yeah, and we have always, we cast race blind, we cast gender blind, except in, for example, Much Ado, we specifically wanted to cast some of the male roles as women. But in almost every show besides this one, we've had women playing male characters as male, just expect the audience to accept it. If we're going to have them accept that these things are really happening right in front of them with people they know. A lot of people who come to the shows know the actors and they know they're not really such and such a character. So why not also ask them? Yeah, why not also ask them to accept that this woman is a man in the story, or that this historical figure who in reality wouldn't have been a person of color is a person of color now.
Absolutely, that's such a great approach. Well, it sounds absolutely fascinating, and it's a great way to spend a night once the sun goes down, the city cools off a little bit. Come check them out. So tomorrow, Sunday, 8 o'clock, and then next weekend as well.
Yep, 3 shows next weekend.
Great. Well, be sure to check them out. Hedgehog Theater, right down the street at the Roger Williams National Memorial. This is Rebecca Maxfield. She's the director of Much Ado About Nothing. She and the rest of the company have no doubt worked extremely hard, so go check them out. And we'll be right back with our next guest here on GoLocal Live.